Hello artists. So today in person what we will be working on is practicing some new colored pencil skills. So for today's lesson you will need a good drawing of your eye to start with. So if you haven't done that yet on the good paper, your good paper, and I have an example right here, is about this size. Okay, so if you have that with you, if you've picked up your portfolio supplies, definitely use this paper. And if you don't, you can also use a sketchbook like I am today for my example. That works fine. And you will need colored pencils or crayons or a colored supply to use to try to practice the values that the techniques that I'm gonna teach you about today. So the techniques that I'm going to teach you about today, and I'm bringing in my completed example as a reference, are going to be value, which are the lights and the darks. So obviously the pupil of your eye is going to be really dark compared to maybe the outside pieces of your eyes might be lighter, okay? So those are important things to look for. And also burnishing. So what burnishing is the areas where I've kind of overlapped color and I've pushed harder with my colored pencils to create kind of a shiny texture or look. So step one for today, get a good eye drawing down on the good paper that you want to use, okay? So if you haven't done that already, because I know we did have a couple weeks ago to work on that. If you haven't done that already, that is step one for today. All right, and what I want you to do is just get to the colored materials today and begin practicing. You do not by any means have to get to a completed eye drawing like this today, because I know that's just not practical in 40 minutes. But what I want you to do is obviously, like you are right now, watch this demonstration and then begin to kind of practice these techniques. So I'm going right in. Of course, I noticed the pupil, and you'll be using your photo reference. Once again, always look back at that photo reference and pay really close attention to where you notice lights and where you notice darks. And you're basically just trying your best to recreate what you notice from that photograph, okay? And in my example, I'm just using my good completed drawing as my reference. So I'm going right in. I grabbed a black. If you don't have a black, you can go for maybe a really dark blue or a really dark gray to kind of start to fill in your darkest values, okay? So I'm going ahead, got my pupil. All right, and that's what value is going to look like. Obviously, my eyelashes are also going to be really, really dark. Remember, a good technique for eyelashes is to kind of flick that pencil upward, because the slower you tend to kind of draw in eyelashes, the more they'll look like those caterpillar legs that we were talking about. And remember, we don't want them to look kind of unnatural and strange. So I'm trying my best to go quicker on the eyelashes and just flick them upwards. And you'll continue to kind of practice anywhere you notice darkness in your photograph. That's where you'll start to kind of add it in with your darker values, okay? And then the other thing that I wanted to show you for today, for you just to kind of begin working in, and once again, I don't expect you to finish the whole thing, and I actually encourage you not to. I want you to really take your time, because you'll also have next week to kind of finish this up, finish practicing adding burnishing and values into your drawing, okay? So I notice in an iris, and a lot of irises are the same way, no matter the color of your eye. If you look closely, it's usually darker along the outside circle of the iris, of that colored part of the eye. Okay, so I'm going to start there, and I pushed harder with my pencil to kind of get that, I guess I would call it an outline. And then how I like to do eyes is I will kind of go in with lines, because all of these inside details are actually made up of lines, okay? Be careful. There are often areas of the iris that are left lighter. So sometimes there's a shadow created by the lashes, so the top part of the iris will be darker than the bottom part where there are more highlights. You want to be really careful to not just color in this whole piece, this whole iris just blue, because you will lose important highlights, okay? So just be mindful of that as you work. To leave some areas white, to leave some of those highlights, okay? And once again, you're always going to refer back to your photo reference and really pay close attention to where you notice there are more light spots, or where you notice there are more shadows created and things like that, okay? And like I said before, you're just going to kind of begin playing around with it. If you're scared to start on the good paper, you can always do a practice sheet first. And now I'm going in with a darker value of blue, just to kind of add in a little bit more of the shadow that's in this eye. Okay, so if you have maybe a brown eye, maybe you're going to use a darker shade of brown to kind of add in some of those shadows. Or vice versa, if you're working on highlights, maybe you'll go with a lighter shade and start to kind of add in the highlights. So I know this is just a beginning, but I did just want to give you kind of a quick demonstration of some of the skills and techniques that you're going to begin practicing in today, okay? Like I said before, you won't finish the entire eye. It will take time, and it certainly does. So just take your time, try your best. Always look back at that photo reference and pay really close attention to the details, okay? And just try your best to capture those details, and that is what you will work on today. All right, good luck.